Before I actually lift the transmission, I'm going to make it a little bit lighter in the front by removing the torque converter. That was hard. Just slips on there. Pretty amazing when you think about it that the torque converter bolts to the flywheel with 3 bolts, and that takes all the torque of your engine, regardless if you have 500 horsepower or anything up to that. 3 bolts is all that transfers the engine torque to your drivetrain. Okay, I'm going to take off the transmission mount. It's a 5/8 inch bolt. There's 2 of them under here. Not very big. There was a lock nut and a huge washer that fell when I did that, but I'll pick those up later. Right now I want to start jacking up the transmission and seeing if we've got a good balance point on there. I couldn't find where I put my handle for the jack for an instant, because I didn't put it where I normally do. There we go. We have adequate balance on this. It's not going to go anywhere. I'll remove this bracket that is the actual mount for the tail end of the transmission later on, but for now I'm just going to wheel the transmission over and set it down on a little dolly I have, and it'll stay there while I take the rest of the chassis apart. Okay, I wanted to make a double check of the orientation of my torque converter to my flywheel. If you recall, we left the engine at top dead center on number 1. And if I go to the bottom of the flywheel, what I have marked number 3, and I'm sure you can't see it here, but what I've marked number 3 has a blue mark beside it, and it happens to be exactly on the bottom when the engine is set at top dead center on number 1. So that will help me identify the position of the engine. On the torque converter, if you'll notice, there's a groove in here that only goes one direction. It's not bidirectional. So if I look at it there, the bolt that I marked number 1 is at the 10 o'clock position. The bolt that I marked number 2 is at about the 2 o'clock position, and they are both above on the same side of that imaginary line between that axis there. And number 3 is at the bottom at 6 o'clock position, and it's the only one that is on this side of that imaginary line through that slot in the torque converter. So I'll be able to identify exactly where that was connected onto the engine whenever I go to put it back, and make sure that I put it back in the exact same orientation. The last thing I'm going to do before I put this torque converter aside for storage is I'm going to put a Ziploc bag over the top of it, and then I will fasten that tightly around it so that no dirt can get in there while it sets. And then I'll set that aside till we're ready to deal with it again.